brightest day and blackest night. No evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
Open the podcast bay door as hell.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 197 of Welcome to Geektown. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead, and I need to start out with an apology. I had originally planned to turn Welcome to Geektown into an interview show, starting with my interviews with Derek Robertson, Judd Winnick, and Dana Simpson. I thought I had some exciting guests lined up to follow those up, having talked to them in person at a local signing with a number of creators agreeing to do the show and telling me how to get in contact with them online to arrange interviews. But when all three of them, a fourth turned me down at the signing for understandable reasons, then ghosted me when I reached out a couple of times to them through those various methods, I got very discouraged and frustrated. I do want to keep doing the show in some form, but it's unlikely to continue on a weekly/bi-weekly basis with any consistency outside of more deep dives like this. I'm already planning to follow this up with a Vision Quest deep dive to finish that trilogy. So I won't be pushing the monthly Patreon anymore, and instead all of my patron-only posts will be available for one-time costs. Speaking of my patrons, they're due for a long-deserved shout-out. Though I paused billing for the great majority of this hiatus because I didn't feel like they should pay when no content was coming out. Those long faithfuls are Mike Sterling, Justin Bailey, Jesse Clark, Ricky Garvin, Carla Hoffman, and Matthew Saint. Thank you again for your continued support. But now let's start in on this new deep dive. This is our first look at one of the DCU shows. In this case, it's Lanterns, starring Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre as Hal Jordan and John Stewart, respectively. We'll definitely discuss some of their comic book histories in this episode and moving forward, though if you want it all in one place, episodes 161 and 162 go into two of the Green Lanterns that will be appearing on this show, Guy Gardner and John Stewart. Let's start the show by introducing my guest who will be discussing the Lanterns with me. I met Woody through a Star Trek podcast, but as you'll hear, his journey to Geektown started from a different direction. I'm talking to Woody Gartner. Thank you for joining me, Woody.
Hi there.
And let me ask, what makes you a citizen of Geektown?
Well, I think it started when I was very young. My parents didn't want us watching anything too adult or too vulgar. So the most interesting things I was able to watch were the Lord of the Rings cartoon that Warner Brothers did back in the day.
Yeah.
The Last Unicorn.
Oh, yeah.
And that just kind of set me on that path to just really enjoying D&D and adult cartoons. I've never played D&D, but it's always been like my favorite type of media. You know, you get some really interesting stories out of those.
Yeah, do you watch a lot of those real plays or live plays, things like Critical Role and...
Yeah, I've tried to watch a couple, and I actually recently bought a board set to teach myself, mainly because I found the best D&D stories are in anime, because they can go really far off a field. I mean, even when you get to Mighty Nine and stuff like that, it's really good. It's really interesting, but the animes, they'll throw a curveball in there that you'll never see in Western media. And I get a sense that these people are playing the D&D game
right
to create their own stories. And I want to make my own story one day. So I feel like I need to learn the game at some point. So I have the board. I haven't played it. I'm still too nervous, but I'm going to get there eventually.
Yeah, they make some really good beginner box stuff for D&D, and there's another game very similar that I'm currently running 2 games of right now called Pathfinder.
Oh, right. I've heard of that one on the PC, right?
Well, it's originally a tabletop game, but there are video game versions of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's your background on DC and Green Lanterns in specific?
Well, like I said, I got on that path of just loving the animation and all that. So when Spider-Man and X-Men and Batman came out, Batman was a favorite of mine. I always loved the way Batman TAS did the stories because they did it a lot
Mm-hmm.
like Batman 66 did, where the villains are not trying to maim Batman. They're not trying to necessarily kill him. They're just putting him through like just the wackiest events that he'll always get out of just through sheer luck. And I always like that a bit more than the serious stuff where, it's like, well, why don't they just shoot Batman if they're going this far already?
Yeah,
But when
yeah.
they're putting a toy clock on an egg bomb, it's like, okay, I can see how Batman got out of that.
And then, what exposure have you had to Green Lantern? Did you watch the Justice
So,
League or
so
the?
I was always more of a Marvel fan,
Mm-hmm.
because their universe is just a little more grounded. You kind of feel a little more realism in that. But I did like the occasional Batman, obviously Alan Moore's Batman and stuff like that. But
Right.
with Green Lantern, I didn't really get into Green Lantern until they had this arc where suddenly all these different factions had different color rings. And what attracted me to that was really just this one cover of a red lantern, and it's this beautiful girl who turned her jaw into basically a raptor teeth jaw, and her red lantern ring just had these raptor-like creatures that she would devastate people with. And I'm like, I have to read this. So that was really my first introduction to Green Lantern. I didn't really go back after that because you know how DC is. They just kind of keep going
Oh yeah.
until it kind of splays so far afield that you're back to square one. And but that's pretty much my only foray into the lanterns. Other than the Justice League cartoons, which were pretty good.
Okay. So you've at least been familiar with Jon Stewart from the Justice League cartoon.
Yeah, he was definitely a favorite. They gave him they gave him one of the few like wholesome, um, really strong love interests of
Yeah.
any of the characters. Batman, Superman, they always have what would you call it? Negative relationships or tortured relationships, and it was really cool, nice to have Jon Stewart and Hawkgirl have an actual romance
Yeah,
for
an adult,
the first
healthy
time.
relationship.
Yes.
No secret identity shenanigans, no
Yeah, they
damsel in
weren't hiding their
distress.
identities from each other. No.
Although she later, we learned that she was hiding something from the rest of the Justice League, but that's another story altogether. All right, well, why don't we get into the show then? We are starting, obviously, with episode 1, titled Pilot, which has kind of a double meaning there.
A little on the nose, a little bit of a double entendre.
Yeah, because obviously Pilot is the first episode of any television series, but we have Hal Jordan as one of our two main characters, and he was both a fighter pilot and then later a test pilot. So we get that little double meaning there. And we start all the way back, which makes me feel very old saying that, but all the way back in 1996. They surprised me with this, with the time jumps. I will tell you, a couple of times in the show, I completely forgot that we were in 2016 for the majority of the story. And so
I
at
agree.
the end, when they jump to 2026, we'll talk about what happens in that when we get there, but I was like, oh, right. That was all 10 years ago. But yeah, we start in 1996, and we learn that Hal Jordan has been active as Green Lantern for 10 years at that point. So he's been around since 1986, which is one of the things I'm loving about the DC universe as James Gunn has set it up, where we have this history of superheroes already in existence.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched any of the other DC movies and shows before this?
Yes, I watched, I basically scanned through, I'm forgetting the name, but you know, the one with the wrestler, Peacemaker,
Yes.
Peacemaker. So I watched the episodes I liked, and I kind of jumped through the ones that are a little, just kind of,
Okay.
some of them I jumped through. I'm gonna be honest, it's not my favorite type of genre, comedy superhero genre. And I think that's the only like live action miniseries they did, right? Oh, they did Penguin, so I watched Penguin, but
But that's
not really
not
a superhero.
well, and it's not in this universe.
The Gunniverse,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's in the
Um,
Matt Reeves Batman, which is separate and its own story.
I watched the cartoon, the Suicide Squad cartoon,
The Creature Commandos?
um, Creature Commandos. That's right.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and so now I'm trying to think of just Gunniverse.
So far, I mean, it's only Superman, Supergirl, Peacemaker, and Creature Commandos.
I have not watched Supergirl
Okay.
as of yet.
Okay. But you did see Superman.
I saw Superman. It was okay.
Okay.
It was okay. Didn't
I
knock my socks off. Didn't disappoint me.
Oh, it knocked my socks off, I will tell you that. Speaking of Superman, when we have this 60 Minutes interview in 1996, by the DCU timeline, this is about a year after Superman's spacecraft landed on Earth, which kind of asks the question, did Hal not notice a spacecraft crashing into Kansas a year before this interview?
Right. And I'm really not sure how interconnected it is because James Gunn even said himself, like, some of these things might be Elseworlds, and so he left it vague. So he left the
Yeah.
window open to be vague. So I'm just waiting to be surprised,
Okay.
and see what's next. I came into the show with zero assumptions.
Got it. So John and his brothers, we get to see young John Stewart watching this interview. They're afraid Dad's gonna catch him, but of course, even when they turn off the TV, he immediately knows. He knows his kids. He knows what they're gonna do. Is John's dad a good dad?
No, we start off with child abuse, but you can only go up from there, right?
Right, yeah, child endangerment. Dad is training his son to be the next Green Lantern at a very young age. And he literally
Right.
does the William Tell thing of shooting an apple off his kid's head, but with a gun instead of an arrow. He is the worst version of a stage mom.
Oh yeah.
You can tell this guy wants to be Green Lantern himself, but he knows that it's too late for him, so he's gonna mold his son into that.
So let me just start off with something I did. This might be jumping ahead a bit. That I did love about this whole thing
Uh-huh.
is that there were no flashbacks.
Okay.
I can count on my hand how many times a show has done flashbacks well. And it's not like I have anything inherently against flashbacks, but I've just seen it just mangled so many times. And it's just rare for them to do it well. But I was appreciative that we had a linear story for once.
Yeah, it is completely in chronological order. Even though we do have a bunch of time jumps in the show, it's still in absolute chronological order.
And because of that, now I'm kind of looking forward to some flashbacks. Because we started off with a linear story.
Right.
I'm not confused.
Yes.
Now I want to know, like, well, what else did he train him in? Did he teach him art? Because we know a big part of the Lanterns is imagination.
True.
Did he teach him creativity? I
Well,
want to know.
we do see John drawing in the interrogation scene.
Mm.
Now, they touch on John's backstory here, and we learn that he is a former Marine sniper. Now, in the comics, that is true, but that was only added around 2006 or so in the comics. That's something that came from the Justice League cartoon that you watched. They put that into that John Stewart's backstory, and then they added it into the comics afterwards. Originally, John Stewart was an architect.
Yeah, I think I remember that, right.
And they still allude to that part of his past as well, but the Marine and the Marine sniper specifically aspect of his backstory is leaned on a lot more these days than the architect side of things. But like I said, we do get to see him drawing later, so we know he has at least some of that skill.
Right, and there's a lot of geometry and math and being a sniper as well.
That's true. One thing I love from the comics is how they describe each Green Lantern's constructs being different, and John's, because of his architectural background, his constructs are never hollow. They are literally like built from the inside out and are these complete objects. You know, if he makes a bulldozer, it's going to have an engine in it, and the tracks will be movable, and, you know, it's all going to be working, as opposed to, like, Hal would probably make the outline of a bulldozer, but it would just be a hollow construct.
Right, and what drew me to this show, I didn't know what to think until I watched the second trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell they were doing the rings CGI well, because we all remember the Ryan Reynolds. I just didn't believe his ring. I just didn't believe the stuff coming out of his ring. But in that trailer, I'm like, okay, even though it's green and it's bright, and looks like green, same color as green screen, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like it meshes with the world. It doesn't look like it's
magic
drawn in. Yeah. So let's continue in the story then. We cut to 2016. Like we said, we're telling a linear story in this first episode. And John is working out in a gym somewhere in Coast City. Coast City is one of the DC Universe's fictional cities that is an approximation of a real city. Metropolis is New York. Gotham is Chicago, New Jersey-ish. It's somewhere in there. Coast City is either LA or San Francisco, depending on when and who is writing the story.
Mm.
And Coast City was always Hal's base of operations. But obviously in the show, John is living there as well, and we can tell immediately from the very first moment that Hal and John meet on screen. Obviously they've been working together for a few months at this point, but just from that very first moment, you can feel the antagonism between the two of them. I love this relationship.
Yeah, it was very much a how would you describe it? You think it was a little bit of fatherly competition in there, a little bit of professional competition in there?
John obviously has some father issues that we'll hopefully work through in this show, but I don't think he sees Hal as a fatherly figure because he's just too undisciplined. He has that Marine father and his background of being in the Marines himself, and someone who's always late to things, always has a 5 o'clock shadow on him, has the dirty car that's playing disco music a little too loud. If John met Hal on the street and had a conversation with him and then walked away, he would be thinking to himself, thank God I never have to talk to that guy ever again.
Right. Something I thought was interesting that they highlighted as a difference was just John being a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that in the sense of, maybe it's for health reasons, but also maybe if you're an intergalactic space cop, it might be prudent to not be a carnivore.
Well, I could see it going in both ways. I could see, yes, you don't want to be a carnivore because maybe you'll accidentally eat a sentient species.
Some of those aliens might be delicious. You never know.
But on the other side, if you're going to if you're going to have to mix in with any culture on any planet, maybe you should be an omnivore where you're willing to eat anything that's put in front of you.
Yeah, a little anything.
So it could go in either way on that. It's an interesting choice. I think it's another aspect of his self-discipline.
Right.
Because you don't really think of military men as being vegans.
No, meat is the most efficient way to get protein.
Yeah.
It's just efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. So for him to be a Marine and be vegan is definitely says something about the character. And to me, that feels like him disciplining himself to do what is healthiest for his body and try to make himself the best person he can be.
Well, and we start to learn he doesn't think he's ever really going to get to be Green Lantern at this point. After meeting Hal enough times, he's thinking to himself, I'm going to be Green Lantern when I'm 50. So I got to make it to 50.
Yeah, I got to live as long as possible. So let's stick to the vegetables, shall we? And Hal's right there with them. The line in the car of, "You're just a substitute teacher, Junior," caught me right away. Hal doesn't want him to replace him. And I think it's funny because, I think that line is especially funny because in the comics, if you go back to pre-Crisis, if anyone here doesn't know what Crisis is when I refer to that, go listen to episode 1 of my show. That's the very first thing I cover. But in pre-Crisis, Guy Gardner was a substitute teacher as his 9-to-5 job.
Well, that kind of adds up.
Oh, Guy Gardner was so different pre-Crisis as opposed to post-Crisis. He was this nice, gentle, kind of milquetoast guy, teacher, just wanted the best for everyone. And then after Crisis, they completely redid his character and made him what I refer to as Reagan guy. In the post-Crisis world.
Oh, you mean Reagan is in like somewhat conservative or?
Oh yeah. As in Ronald Reagan is his hero.
Ooh.
He thinks Rambo is the best role model out there. He's just this kind of misogynistic jerk who will say whatever he wants to say, whatever he thinks will just come out of his mouth. It was a complete 180 in the character, but that is how they have gone with Guy from 86 on. They have never gone back to the substitute teacher who wants to help all the kids out there.
Okay.
And we get our first action scene, or action beat, let's say, as Hal says, "Hey, I'll meet you at the taco stand," and just rolls out of the car, leaving his ring behind. Now, what would you think of if you were in that situation? We find out what John did in a little bit. What's your go-to?
Well, that's a very dangerous maneuver.
Oh, absolutely.
Hal could easily die trying to roll out of a car. So when thinking back on it, at first I'm like, well, he's crazy. And I'm thinking back on it, he must be in a tremendous physical shape to even be willing to do something like that without a ring. So it did give me a little bit more confidence in Hal. Because if he's willing to go that far, he must actually be fit for purpose. And as far as what would I think in that situation, I mean, the ring's right there. I would think it's time to go. I would think like he's passing the torch. He just killed himself. Let's go.
All right. Yeah. Well, there's something interesting about Hal, and I'm betting that they'll touch on it at some point in the show, is that after he becomes a Green Lantern, he still remains a test pilot as his day job because, Green Lantern doesn't actually pay the bills.
Mm.
And when he flies in a jet, he leaves the ring in his locker.
Oh, wow.
He refuses to have that safety net as a test pilot because no one else will.
Mm.
And so he is the kind of guy who's willing to roll out of a car and knows what to do and how to take the fall, but is willing to do that and is willing to get beat up by yokels at a bar in order to infiltrate a jail. That's the kind of guy that Hal is. When he says he has no fear, he means it.
Mm.
We get some question on that later in the show, and we'll definitely want to talk about that when we get to that point. But I think he really is a man without fear, and that's what you have to be a Green Lantern, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you always have to wonder how deep does that go? How pathological can that get?
That's true. Fear is healthy to a certain extent. I mean, there's someone like me who has generalized anxiety disorder. That's fear to an unhealthy extent. But there is a healthy amount of fear, and to have no fear whatsoever, maybe it's that leads him to be alone rather than the other way around. So I like how we get John walking to the taco stand and we get him calling his dad. So we know that A, his dad is still around, and B, he's still kind of training him. He's still being that stage dad, as it were, saying,
Yes.
You can do this. This is what we've been working for all our lives. This is what you want still, right? And John's like, yes, of course.
Yeah, and there's just something so creepy about that.
Yeah. It's that living vicariously through your child to have your child do what you wanted to do with your life.
Well, and you really see the first time I really saw the damage of what his father did is when he's talking to a child.
Oh, yes.
And explaining a story you probably shouldn't tell a child you just met.
Yeah, that is totally in my notes. When we get to that point, I'm like,
oh, okay, he is damaged.
Yes.
Severely.
How do you know how to throw a football? Well, so my dad used to shoot apples off my head. Okay, A, how is that relevant to football throwing? And B, you're telling this to a child that is a complete stranger to you.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, John is damaged.
Yes. By the way, what did you think of the actor they cast as John?
Aaron Pierre, I thought he did an excellent job with the material. He had that right balance of stoicism, just the professional, let's get things done, with just a little bit of anger underneath it.
Yes. Yeah, he was not one note.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, and he has some really funny lines too at certain points.
Yeah, and I like that he has the jar head.
Mm-hmm.
So he looks the part. When I first heard this announced, I was a little disappointed they couldn't find someone with green eyes. I'm a half African American, so I know green eyes is one of the few eye colors African Americans tend to get on a regular basis.
Okay.
So usually we get brown or black eyes, but
yeah,
some of us get green eyes regularly, and some of us get blue eyes and stuff. But the most predominant eye color other than black or brown is green. But he has some light color eyes, so he still fits the bill.
Yeah. For me, the physical things like green eyes or,
Not a big deal, right?
yeah, that is so much lower down on the priority list to can you act the role, that
Yes.
that I'm okay when they make that sort of change, or if they decide to, obviously in Jon Stewart's case, the fact that he is African American is always going to inform some part of his character. So, doing a race swap on him would be a bad idea. But when they do it in other cases where, where that doesn't make a difference to the character's backstory and experience, I'm totally fine with that. So, yeah, so the eyes, I didn't think about it that much. But I
Yeah, it
thought
was more of
he
a curiosity,
looked...
like would they find it? They
yeah.
didn't. It's fine.
Yeah, but other than that, he looks the part. He has that very, not quite lantern jawed, no pun intended, but a very angled face. You can see this guy as someone who was in the Marines, and
Yeah, his accent. So he has a
yeah,
very good
yeah.
accent for it. Yeah.
I mean, the actor is British, so he's
Oh, okay.
doing an American accent very well.
He does it. He's doing a great American accent. I didn't even think about it. I can't say that for every character. Um, let's go ahead and talk. Let me just.
Are we going to talk about
there.
Hal's accent? Is that where you're going with that? Or...
No. I was fine with Hal.
Okay.
The sheriff.
Oh.
The sheriff who we saw in Boardwalk Empire, and she had an Irish accent in Boardwalk Empire, but I believe she's a British actress.
Okay.
She wasn't horrible, but she definitely bled through very noticeably in multiple scenes, and that's
Okay.
it's one of those things, like it's not a super big deal. John has a better accent than she does. Yeah, it was noticeable, especially when she just tried to talk casually. She's kind of changing her accent by a second here.
She is Scottish.
Okay. Well, if she's Scottish, I give her even more credit.
Yeah. Scottish to American is very hard. It's such a different accent to start from. It's always impressive. I mean, because my Scottish accent sucks. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna win any awards for my accent work, so I'm not gonna complain too much about somebody else's. Now, in the show at this point, we meet the hologram, which bothered me a little bit. It makes sense for kind of the tone of the show that they're doing, but all ring constructs should be green. In the comics, when you're communicating with another Green Lantern, you'll get a little hologram of them coming out of the ring or something, but it will be a green version of them.
Right, because that's what it's made out of.
Yeah, because that's all the ring can do, is make green things. So when it pops up and it's lifelike Hal, it's a little off-putting. My pedantic part of me is like, hey, how do you not do this? But
and then what do you think about, because we did see Hal fly off at one point, and I think I saw a tint of green around him, but it was mostly transparent. What did you feel about that?
I think the flight, having that be colorless, is fine, because it can be a thin enough transparency that you don't need it to necessarily show off as green. So that I'm okay with, especially, again, with the tone of the show that they're taking, where it's very grounded as much as possible.
And I love that. I was expecting a superhero show. Instead, I got a prestige TV show.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were saying at first that this was basically going to be True Detective with superheroes.
Not quite.
Not quite, but along those lines. And again, like you said earlier, it was the second trailer that really drew me in and made me say, oh,
Yes.
they're going to do some real Green Lantern stuff. It is not just a detective story that happens to have Green Lanterns in it. We are going into the Green Lantern mythos. So that's what really made me excited for the show.
But I will say, as I said before, I would rather have the hologram than disjointed flashbacks.
Oh, absolutely. And Hologram is a much nicer version of Hal.
Yes.
It seems like 2006 Hal would have been a better trainer than 2016. And we're told that the lanterns are supposed to back up their consciousness every week, right?
Right.
But it's been 10 years. And Hal has shifted in personality since that 10 years ago.
Right.
So I think something happened to Hal that kind of broke him 10 years ago.
Well, I took it as either something broke him or there's something that he does not want to pass on necessarily to John.
Okay. But it's only been a couple of months since he started training John.
Right.
And he stopped backing himself up 10 years ago. So
But you kind of felt a little bit of cynicism in him by the time he's, going to the taco stand and stuff.
mm-hmm.
And I just felt a little bit of discomfort from Hal with himself.
Oh, absolutely. But it felt like the hologram version of him didn't have that nearly as much.
Exactly.
So I'm really hoping that part of this story will fill in that gap there of what happened to him between 2006 and 2016 that messed him up so bad. And I think we get another hint at that later in the episode, but again, we'll get there. For now, we get the message. There's hail in Rushville, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to Hal at the taco stand being a celebrity.
Yes.
I like how superheroes are treated in the DCU as celebrities. It makes a lot of sense. People aren't scared of them by first glance. Their first thought is, hey, I know this person, I've seen them on TV, they're cool.
Right. It's normal for them.
Yeah, because superheroes have been around for at least 40 years in this point in the show, 30 years. In fact, if you do an Easter egg kind of deep dive on the Superman movie, there's a mural in the Hall of Justice that we just see in the background, and it shows a history of superheroes in that world, and it goes back to medieval times. So superheroes have been a part of this world for 300 years. And so it is unusual, obviously, but it is normal for superheroes to be around. And so they are treated like celebrities.
And they want them to stay. They expect Superman to be there. They expect Green Lantern to be there for them.
Yep.
To bring them justice, to bring them peace.
Yeah. Now, another line in this part of the show that set off my question detector was when Hal said he only wears the suit on special occasions and used that tie analogy.
Oh, yes.
To me, that was a complete bull answer. That was not the real reason. I feel like something happened to him at some point in the past, and he doesn't like the uniform anymore because of that. Did you get that feeling at all, or?
Yeah, no, he had that feeling, but it did seem to show that it wasn't completely pervasive within him, but it was like a jolt.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make you think this is something that happened.
Yeah. not just an attitude shift that happened over time, but like there was
Correct.
a point where something happened and now he doesn't like the uniform.
Like he's thinking about something when he's saying that.
Yeah. So then Hal gets his message from John, and again, the relationship between the two characters as Hal says, pay the check, flies off, and John is just like, well, mother, how am I going to? Because
Right,
not only,
and yeah,
not
he's
only
so
is
jealous.
he in Southern California somewhere, he doesn't have a car anymore because it crashed 3 miles back. So he has
That's right, and it's 2000 whatever, and there's
16.
no Ubers. Well, I think they have Ubers at this
They-
point, but
they
you know,
might
good
have
luck finding
Ubers,
one out
but
there.
Yeah, he probably has no signal where he is. That is
Correct.
the middle of nowhere, and somehow he is lucky enough to get from the middle of nowhere in Southern California to an airport in
Right.
California, then flies to an airport in Nebraska, rents a car, and gets from the airport in Nebraska to the small town in Nebraska, Rushville, where Hal flew to. He does all of that in 6 hours. Just a flight from LAX to Omaha is 3 hours by itself.
Right.
He got really lucky on it because
he's rushing that layover, right?
Because you go to you just go to an airport randomly and say I want to go to Nebraska. They're gonna be like, oh great, the next flight is tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's one of those, we have to do this to move the story along, but I just found it funny that
that's good training if you get stranded on a on a planet somewhere.
Yeah, you have to know how to get around. Hal's tests. Yes, sure, you can look at them and say, yeah, that is something you would need to know, or something you should be able to do as a Green Lantern, but at the same time, he's just being a dick about it.
Sure.
Speaking of which, Hal gives John another test when he does finally get to Rushville and the stadium, and he asks him to break down what happened. What do you see? Which I think is a legitimate good test there to see what are his observation skills, what does he see, what connections does he make, that sort of thing. And John picks up on those little details, like the kicking block is still on the field, so we know that it ended with a field goal and the game ended abruptly at that point.
Yeah, so when he was doing that, was he supposed to like suss out the alien? I mean, he was kind of vague about whether it was an alien or not.
Well, Hal obviously believes that there is an alien involvement, but after John breaks down the scene, he specifically says, I don't see how any of this, what I see, is connected to aliens in any way.
Right, and that's basically mystery.
Yeah. Obviously, as we learned from the episode, Hal is right, but we meet the sheriff here with her accent as good as she can do. And she obviously doesn't believe this is aliens either. Now, what I have to wonder is, we can tell that Hal had some sort of monitoring system that told him about this incident, but what exactly was involved? Did it just say, hey, there's a weird mass shooting in the middle of nowhere, or did it catch a spacecraft coming down and told him, and that's the hail that was happening? What is Hal's evidence? How does he know that this is alien involvement? How did he even know that this
and we don't even
incident
get to
happened in the
know
first
that
place?
because the person who says there's hail in Nebraska is this 10-year-old hologram,
Right.
which makes it super perplexing. Why would a 10-year-old hologram know what's happening
Well,
right
what
now?
what I have to imagine is that the ring has some sort of,
Detection
monitoring
system?
detection system, something going on that tells him, okay, there's an event happening in Rushville, Nebraska. And then
Right.
to tell him that, it uses the most recent consciousness backup combined with the sentience of the ring, like it says during that scene. And so
as
it just
someone,
uses that version of Hal, whatever the last backed up version is, to come out and say, hey, this is what I need to tell you right now.
so is there any kind of pseudo sentience or AI in the Lantern Rings, like in canon?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you ask
Okay.
the ring a question, it will tell you in your own language the answer to that question, and it has
Okay.
access to it is artificially intelligent. It has access to the records of Oa, and a whole bunch of knowledge is available to it. So yes, the ring is definitely smart.
Well, and we're all just starting to get familiar with this sort of concept because we all have tried different AIs, and some of them we love, some of them we love to hate.
Well, I just hate all of them, but we won't get into that. Now, another line during this scene when Hal and John are talking about this incident,
Right.
Hal says, I've been doing this job since you were a baby. I'm the only one on this planet that's ever done this job. That was a moment where I was like, oh, right, it's 2016 still. Guy Gardner hasn't taken the ring yet. We don't have
Right.
a second Green Lantern at this point. Because my first thought was, what about Guy Gardner? And then I'm like, oh, wait, 10 years ago, Guy Gardner probably hasn't become a Green Lantern yet.
Well, so like not to slow you down too much, but do you still think after seeing this episode that Guy Gardner is going to be part of this universe for this specific show?
Oh, well, I know from this season on little teaser they did at the end of the episode that Guy Gardner makes appearances in this show.
Okay.
So yes, Guy is.
Good to know. Good to know.
This is definitely part of the Gunn universe, and Guy is going to show up. And in the comics, for most of the history, there has been one Green Lantern per sector.
Okay.
After the Green Lantern Rebirth story in around 2006, I believe, they changed it to 2 Green Lanterns per sector. And I think there's, at this point, at least in 2016, they're sticking with 1 Green Lantern per sector. But we'll see if that changes or not when we get more story in 2026. And again, in this scene, I really feel like Hal doesn't like the thought of being replaced. That is the main source of his antagonism towards John, in my opinion. Did you feel that as well, or?
I kind of saw it more as, like I said, when we had that taco scene,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like he was reliving a visceral memory during that scene with about the tie, along with his other emotions. I felt it more that he is dug deep right now. He is in the middle of something, and he's not treating it like a distraction,
Mm-hmm.
to his credit, but he is treating it like this is not working out in some way.
Yeah. He definitely doesn't like having John around, and we learn from the hologram earlier that until somewhat recently, no one ever trained their own successor. They don't train lanterns from their own sector.
Mm.
So it probably is weighing down on him even more that this guy specifically is going to be the one to take over for me someday.
Yeah, and he, I don't know how much Hal knows about his background, but he has a very, but John in this story has a very bizarre background. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a sniper, but like, what kind of sniper was he? Was he one who got to choose his own targets? Was he one that just did what he was told? We don't know yet. We don't know that yet.
Yeah. I mean, as a Marine, he probably pretty much was given the targets by his
I mean,
superior, but
he could have been a mercenary, a Marine first, and then a mercenary.
yeah, I just don't see that especially this version of John. He is
Right, right. He's by the book.
Yes. Yeah, he is very much by the book, and I can't see him going out and being a sniper for hire to just whoever pays him the best.
What did you think about his response to what Hal told him to do at that stadium?
That's the funny thing, is that Hal doesn't really tell him to do anything. John sees that there's that guy out of place, and Hal's like, yeah, I already clocked him. And John says, well, we should tell the sheriff. We should respect the chain of command and go tell her. And Hal's like, you want to do that? Yeah, go ahead. It's not really a, you should go do this. It's just a, I'm going to give you enough rope. Go hang yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And we see him do exactly that because the sheriff had also already spotted this guy and was trying to do her best not to call attention to him to be able to get him in a more secure location.
Right. At first, it came off as the typical, I have jurisdiction. See, I'm the FBI. I'm the cops. But then, yeah, then I liked how it was a little more nuanced than that. She's like, get away from me.
Yeah, she's like,
I'm
I know what I'm doing.
I'm trying to look like more competent than I am.
You're just making this worse. And sure enough, the guy runs off and the chase ensues.
And I love how they salvaged, they didn't hang their own characters out to dry in this show. Like no, she is smart, she is competent.
Yeah, she is smart, she is competent, but so is John. When he figures out, hey, I can get around through this shortcut underneath and cut this guy off.
Yeah, how does this building actually work?
Yeah. It's almost a hint at his architecture knowledge.
Yes.
He knows how you would get from point A to point B in the building the fastest because he knows how these buildings are built. But John knocks the guy out with one punch. This guy, obviously we learn he's an alien coming up in the episode, but he's obviously not a, Superman level alien where he's got a bunch of powers.
Which makes sense.
He's just about an average guy, and takes that punch and is immediately knocked out and taken away. And Hal's like, I need to interrogate that guy. Like hell you do. Now we get into the bar scene.
Well, hold on a second. Do you think that they just weren't ready they just didn't show us how aliens look yet? Or do you think there are aliens that look humanoid? Is that what they're going for?
Well, no,
obviously Hawk Girl is very humanoid, but
yeah, there are obviously aliens. I mean, even Superman looks like a
Superman.
So yeah, there are obviously aliens who look like regular humans, but there are also plenty of non-human looking aliens. They say later in the interrogation scene, John says there are 14 different species that have the ability to completely fool our technology.
Right, X-ray,
So,
MRI.
yeah, no matter what you look at, you're going to see them as human. So,
And I always thought that made a little bit of sense because we talk about statistics, right? What are the
mhm,
statistical chances of an alien looking like us? Well, statistically, the only intelligent life form that we have an example of in the universe is a bipedal, omnivoric, humanoid creature. So if you just go by statistics, it's not out of the realm of possibility that another intelligent life form would look pretty close to us. Just in the sense that
yeah,
bacteria
I,
statistically all looks similar, even when they're different breeds and species of bacteria, they'll still look identical to another E. coli or something like that. The E. coli will look just like this other bacteria that's under the earth, completely different genetics.
yeah.
So even on Earth, when they're completely different family trees,
Well,
they'll look identical.
yeah, there's a famous aspect of evolution called carcinogism, I believe is what it's called. Future Kurt here. The word I was actually looking for is carcinization. It's the fact that multiple creatures have evolved to have a crab shape, even though they are on completely distinct parts of the evolutionary tree. They've still evolved into a similar shape. So I can see that, but also I would argue your statistical value there
Sample.
in that
Small sample size, right?
in that A, small sample size, and B, depending on how you define intelligence, there are multiple creatures on this earth who show very complex thoughts, like octopuses and dolphins, that may not have language like we do,
Right.
but definitely have what most people would consider sentience.
They still have a face with two eyes.
That's true. That is true. But I think in this case, it is probably someone who disguised themselves to look as human as possible.
Yes.
Because they bring up that line with John saying there are 14 species that can do this. He later says in the interrogation, hypothetically speaking, if I did this and went to great trouble to blend in and look like you and learn these stupid statistics about pointless games, to me there's enough evidence that shows that they are probably not naturally looking human.
Right.
I could easily be proven wrong, but we will find out, most likely. Now, as I was saying, we get to the bar scene, and Hal decides to start a fight using what I called in my notes the John Mulaney method. I don't know if you're aware of the comedian John Mulaney.
Oh, I was a big fan of his last comedy special. It was genius.
Okay, yes, yeah, Sweet Baby J. One of his earliest specials was called What's New Pussycat?
Okay.
And literally it ends with him telling a story of him and his best friend as a kid going to a restaurant and putting What's New Pussycat on the jukebox 17 times in a row.
Oh my God.
So I obviously thought of that as Hal punches in 143, 143, 143 over and over into the jukebox.
Yeah, I was immediately like, what is this song choice?
Hal seems to be stuck in the 70s. Boogie Shoes is playing when he pulls up to pick up John, and then...
Well, and that's a very accurate generational thing. I don't know about how you grew up, but my parents had, my mom specifically had a huge record collection.
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
kids these days don't get the benefit of someone having a massive, like room-filled, curated music selection that is just they play that record on repeat. They play their favorite record over and over again, and it is just in your head, whether it was your favorite song or not. You know, if your mom was playing it every hour, she was playing it every hour.
Yeah.
That just felt so raw and realistic to me. that he was just comfortable, just like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna play.
But yeah, like I was saying, Hal is kind of stuck in the 70s with his song choices, which makes sense because if he was a test pilot in 86 when he got the Lantern Ring, let's say he did a 4-year stint in the military before that, so he was, say, 24 or so in 86. So his prime music listening years are going to be like 72 to 78 when he's in middle school and high school. So
yeah,
before that fight starts, Hal goes over his origin, which is basically word for word from the comics. It is as faithful as I have ever heard a retelling of his origin.
I didn't know that because it was surprisingly brutal.
Okay, yeah.
The way he described it was surprisingly just very brutal.
Well,
you kind of felt the scared kid.
For Hal?
Yeah, when he's describing an alien who's like vomiting up
glow in the dark blood.
Glow in the dark blood.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, who is this? Is this Sinestro coming out, or like who is he describing?
Yeah, no, that is Abin Sur, who was the previous Green Lantern of Sector 2814.
And maybe brutal isn't the right word, but you got the feeling he respected the power of this creature that he was encountering.
Yeah. Well, when he describes the way he was dragged across the country in seconds, he knew the power of the ring immediately because he recognized how fast he was going and where he was headed. Yeah, no, it was straight out of the comics. Even the drunkenness, he says, I had like 9 too many, still wearing my jeans and my boots. That's not in the original origin, but when they retell it in the Emerald Dawn miniseries in 86, post-crisis, Hal was a bit of a drunk at that point in his life.
Right, kind of like a day one comic.
They retold his origin story in a 6-issue miniseries. Basically, Crisis on Infinite Earths restarted the DC universe in 1986. And so they did a Man of Steel miniseries about Superman. They did Emerald Dawn miniseries for Green Lantern. Wonder Woman's book started over at #1. Batman got a year 1 story arc in his book. So they just kind of told everyone's origins over again with a more modern storytelling.
Okay.
The other thing I found interesting in here is Hal says Earth is a backwater planet. Basically, they didn't even want anybody showing up on Earth, let alone becoming a Green Lantern, because we're the boonies, we're the Hicks, we haven't even left our solar system yet, so why would we bother?
Right, in anime, as they say in anime, country bumpkin.
Yeah, exactly. Which is something they go back and forth on in the comics. Sometimes Earth is considered a backwater planet because, again, our technology, we haven't gone out to other planets yet. We haven't interacted with aliens on their terms.
Yes.
But other times in the DC universe, Earth is the most important planet in the universe because it's where all of these superheroes have somehow all come together.
Coalesced, right.
And when they recreated the multiverse, it was all based on changing bits. Every universe, they changed bits of times of Earth's history. And it is Earth that makes the difference between Universe 1 and Universe 2 and Universe 3 and so on. So it's this funny dichotomy of Earth being the least important and most important planet at the same time, and just depending on the kind of story they want to tell, which one they lean into. Wrapping up the bar scene, I think this scene with John and Hal had two of the funniest moments in the show for me. I watched this 3 times basically before we recorded here. One, just to watch it all the way straight through, just taking it in as a show. A second time to take notes on it, and then a third time this evening to refresh my memory and just keep it fresh in my mind. And every single time I laughed at John saying, "This is a stupid plan." Hal saying, "I've had stupider." John, "That I do not doubt."
You finally got one in.
Yeah. And then the other one is when Hal hands the ring over and says, "Now, it's going to look like these guys are really kicking my ass. You're going to be tempted to step in, but I'm going to need you to stay right there." And John, just with no hesitation, is like, "No problem, I got it." And Hal just gives him this look like, "You want to watch me get my ass kicked, don't you?" Yeah, kind of.
Well, I this is the most I've ever liked. I forget the actor's name, but the actor playing Hal. I've never thought he was a bad actor or anything, but yeah, he was just so good in this role. You can tell he's giving it 110%.
Yeah, the actor's name is Kyle Chandler. He's
Chandler,
best known for the TV show Friday Night Lights, which I never saw. I was never a football guy, so I was never.
I think I remember from that first edition show back in the day, where he would get a newspaper and it would kind of help him solve crimes, which is a little bit similar to what he's doing here.
Early edition.
Edition, yes.
Yeah, that's him. Like I said, Friday Night Lights is probably his biggest role, but yeah, he's been
a lot of good actors came out of that show.
He's been working for quite some time now, and yeah, he does a great job in this. He's got that combo of smarm and confidence, but deservedly so.
Yes.
Now, Hal gets taken away. In the meantime, John is getting lucky with this woman in the bar.
Right. One of the worst sex scenes I've ever seen.
Worst how?
It just didn't look believable. I don't know who the intimacy coach was, but she just kind of jumped up a little bit. I didn't really.
Yeah, I mean, it was a quick montage. It wasn't like the whole thing.
It was quick. That's what it was. Yeah.
I thought it was fine. We didn't need to see everything.
Did he pull out the condom? Did he do the George where he rips it with his teeth?
Yeah. You could tell she was the instigator here. She wanted it.
Yeah.
And he just kind of went along for the ride, as it were.
And she wasn't suspiciously good looking. She came off as like just someone you'd meet in a bar who's just talking to you, and that's what people do at bars. They're like, "Hey."
Yeah, I did not.
It's like only the church and the bar are places where someone will reach across the table and say, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah, I did not see the twist coming of who she was.
Yeah.
So that took me aback just as much as it did John when that happens.
Someone else's grill, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
not an expression I had heard before, but okay. It's understandable. It makes total sense. And I love how everybody is playing to the top of their intelligence. Hal comes up with this plan, but the sheriff sees right through it. And so she's like, "Well, I'm locking you in the broom closet. You don't get to talk to this guy." As John said, your plan was stupid. It was obvious what you were trying to do, and so I found a workaround. Like I said, every character is working to the top of their intelligence. No one is doing things just to move the plot along.
But his confidence off of that ring, that is interesting.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, he refuses to wear the ring when he's flying as a test pilot. He did spend time as a soldier in the Air Force, so he does know how to fight, and he's willing to take a punch in order to get what he wants. We meet Billy Macon in the arraignment scene, and there was a really interesting back and forth between the judge and Hal in that scene, which makes me wonder. In the first scene with the sheriff, she says, "You don't have jurisdiction. You only have jurisdiction over extraterrestrials."
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he has some jurisdiction at some point implies that he has some official legal capacity as Green Lantern. That there is a point where the government says, yes, you are the recognized authority.
Mm-hmm.
But then the judge is like, okay, what bureau are you a part of? What agency do you belong to? And he's like, I'm Green Lantern of the Green Lanterns. And so it's like, okay, does he have an official capacity or does he not? It's weird how one scene implies that he does and then the other scene implies that he doesn't. Especially since his identity has been known for the last 20 years. If the government knows that Green Lantern is Hal Jordan, who lives at 123 Green Lantern Street, they're gonna come to him and be like, hi, you work for us now, or we want to work with you, or whatever it would be. But the judge doesn't seem to know what that official capacity is.
Yeah, and she didn't seem dismissive of it, but she's just like, well, I don't know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, she's like,
so I'm just gonna do my job.
And at this point, Billy Macon, played by the excellent Jason Ritter, who I love in everything he does, shows up to represent Hal, and we learn that he is married to Sheriff Kane.
Yeah, that seems sensitive, doesn't it?
It seems strained at the very least. When I was doing research for this show and finding actors' names and things like that, one of the DC Universe wikis listed Carrie Kane as a love interest of Hal Jordan.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that in the first scene where they meet.
Sure.
Where John says, she hates you. I think she hates you. And he's like, yeah, but it's the way she hates me. You could definitely see that kind of enemies to lovers arc going there. But then bring in this husband, and I don't know. I don't see that relationship going that way, but we've got 7 more episodes, so we'll...
She seemed to have a ton of baggage that even she acknowledged. So yeah, it was definitely a bit of a strange, like, is he laying it on thick? Is he not laying it on thick? Where is she in all this? She didn't seem to be too fazed by anything in particular.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of made it feel like some cold, threw some cold water on it.
Absolutely. And at this point, we learn that Billy has a father who's willing to pay $200,000 in bail to get Hal to show up at his ranch. And this ranch is interesting. The arch over the gate says, study the past. That is apparently the motto of this family or whatever. And then we meet Will Macon, played by Garrett Dillahunt.
Like one of the best actors out there, really.
Oh, yeah, he's great in this role. I know I've seen him in other stuff, but I can't place exactly where.
Yeah, Deadwood, The Expanse, and just a million other little things. And like I said, he played two characters in Deadwood, and
Okay.
it was just that's when I really fell in love with him. It was just masterful because he played two characters that were couldn't be more different.
Hmm.
Yeah, one of those IMDb pages that
That just goes on
you could
forever.
it goes on and on and on and
Yeah,
on.
yeah. He has been consistently working since 1988 and is still
Yes.
working today, so good on you, Garrett. Yeah, he says in the scene that he's a caretaker of the property, but the
Mhm.
gates have a giant M on them, which one would assume stands for Macon. So I'm not sure what he means by being just a caretaker, unless his boss also happens to have a last name that starts with M, which would just be a weird coincidence.
There was a documentary that recently came out on Netflix where this woman who was a doctor, she finds out her fiance essentially manslaughtered but really murdered someone who was like a biker. They ran over him on the road and
Mm-hmm.
and then they hide his body. And this guy, he was caretaking just hundreds of beautiful acres in Scotland. He had like his own waterfalls. I mean, it wasn't his property, but it might as well have been. And he buried the body there with his bros. That was the only other place where I really got a concept of what this sort of thing he might be describing is.
Yeah.
Where he's basically, groundskeeper Willie on steroids.
Well,
like
but
he's got the run of the place,
Yeah, yeah. And he seems to be at least nominally in charge of this militia. Now, this is 2016.
Mm-hmm.
In our world, in real life, that was the same year that the Bundys occupied the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge up here in Oregon.
Okay.
So anti-government militias were definitely in the news and in the public consciousness at that point. So it makes sense that they would make that connection. But apparently Macon's militia is not anti-government, it's anti-aliens. I love the way the way Macon says, well, it was because of the goddamn aliens, son. Just the delivery on that line there, it was perfect.
He's trying to be reasonable about it.
Yeah.
But you can also tell like there's a little bit of crazy in there.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who is that obsessed with any topic, especially one that makes a group out to be the other or automatically evil, has something wrong. And Macon is obsessed, or at the very least, Macon's employer is obsessed with making sure aliens never invade this planet.
Yeah. I know you got me thinking about that M. I'm just trying to pull through DC villains in my head. Start with the letter M.
Yeah, I double checked that there is no William Macon in DC Comics already as a character.
Yes.
And there's not. So this is an original or at least an adaptation, a changing of the name to disguise who he really is. I'm betting that whoever the employer is going to be the recognizable name from the comics.
What was the name of that guy who's oh no, that's Savage, right? The guy who like lives he's like eternal.
Yeah, Vandal Savage.
Vandal Savage. Okay. Not him.
No, probably not. Although that would be a good, I could definitely see him fitting into that kind of role. So good pull there on your part. At this point, we get the football scene with John and Noah that we've already ridiculed. So my dad used to shoot apples off my head. What?
Don't say that to anyone. Don't tell anyone that.
Except a therapist.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe Child Protective Services 30 years ago, but it's too late now. uh,
But I can see that, people from, maybe your generation and my generation. So a lot of us had parents who were, they believed in corporal punishment.
oh, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
came about kind of at the same time when that got out of favor, and parents could get in trouble with that, and there was a code of silence.
Absolutely.
But it was also extremely normal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting for him to like just feel comfortable saying that to a child, as if that child would understand what he was saying.
Well, everyone's childhood is normal to them until they talk to other people and
Other
talk about
kids,
their children,
other adults.
their childhood, and people start going, no, that's not normal. Or you find out how different somebody else was raised. So I can see him saying that, but it just shows how screwed up his childhood was that he feels comfortable telling a child this.
And I felt for Hal in that moment. I'm like, this person is not ready to talk to aliens. He's just not.
Okay. How do you get someone ready to talk to aliens?
Yeah, that's an out of this world question. So I'm gonna defer.
All right. All right. So moving on in the story then, Grandma arrives, and lo and behold, surprise to all of us, it's the woman from the bar. I find it interesting that they skip entirely over the dinner itself.
Which is good.
You don't need it, but at the same time, there was...
Especially if they're serving two different dishes.
Well, it was so ripe for farce level comedy. We don't find out how Will Macon knows that John slept with his wife.
Right.
We could have seen that in the dinner scene. Or did she come home and tell him, hey, by the way, slept with Jon Stewart, he's training to be the next Green Lantern? I mean, what was the process there? How did Macon find out about it? We could have seen that at the dinner, but they chose not to do it.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm actually looking forward to some of these flashbacks. I mean, for all we know, it could have been Hal.
I don't see that because of Hal's reaction. Hal is not that good of a liar.
Okay.
Because when John tells him, I definitely slept with this man's wife, he's like, we've only been here 24 hours. I'm impressed. And like I said,
That's true. He did seem genuinely impressed.
He did seem genuinely impressed and genuinely surprised. And I don't think Hal is that good of a liar to hide that sort of thing. So my feeling is that the Macon family is working on some higher level to get the Green Lanterns involved. And maybe her sleeping with John was just part of that plan somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we do finally get to the interview, the interrogation scene. I like that Hal's late to this, just like he was late to picking up John. It's just a character flaw of his that he is never on time to anything. And even though the sheriff still doesn't believe aliens are involved, she's willing to give Hal 10 minutes because of her father-in-law.
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier, but we do see John drawing in this scene, showing his artistic, potentially architectural background, although it's more of a life drawing that he's doing, not a building drawing. And the line that I love from John in this scene is, we're all aliens. It just depends on what planet you're standing.
Yeah.
It's a very progressive attitude. It's not Earth-centric. We all exist. We're all beings in our own right. We're all aliens.
We're all in need of acceptance, too.
Yeah. And Hal does a great job on this interrogation here.
Yes.
I love the way he finds, okay, this is your area of expertise. You know football. Okay, fine. Do you know about this? Do you know about pop culture then?
Like something you know, even if you don't want to know.
Yeah, it's just
Like,
pop culture osmosis. Everyone
yes.
can
Like
tell
if you
you.
have cousins, I mean, I don't have kids, but I have enough cousins that I've had an earful about Harry Potter from my little nieces,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things. But I mean, before we get more into that, I just want to say how proud I am of this show for not doing the Dick Wolf interrogation scene.
Okay.
And so Dick Wolf, he produces all the Law and Order
Yep.
shows,
Yep.
and I used to be a licensed private investigator. I've had to interact with police officers, and there are lots of bad cops, but there are lots of good cops out there. And the good cops hate Law and Order.
Mm.
They do not like seeing a suspect getting slapped, their head slammed on the table,
Right.
they're thrown over in their chair. It disgusts them to their core. And I just have to give the show so much credit for not going the easy Dick Wolf route of like tossing his chair over, slapping him around. And even the sheriff was like, I don't want this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
She
Hal's like,
tells him
I'm not even
beforehand,
going there.
you bully him around at all, you touch him, then you're going right back in jail.
Out. And I love that. I love that. It almost exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. They say it a number of times in the show. Hal is a cop. He's not an American police officer. He's not a local police
Interesting,
officer.
yeah.
But he is a police officer of the galaxy. He is a police officer of a sector of the universe. And to see him follow the rules of interrogation well and not go the abuse route shows him to be a good character and good at his job.
Good at his job. That's the perfect way to describe it.
Now, before Hal really digs in and gets Waylon to reveal who he really is, we cut back to the sheriff and John, and she asks, why do you respect him? Why does John respect Hal? And he says he's fearless, and then she comes back and basically says he's not fearless, he's lonely. He doesn't have anyone he cares about enough to be afraid for them. And like I was saying earlier, I wonder if there's a cause and effect there, but I wonder in which direction it goes. Is he
Right.
fearless because he's alone? Or is he alone because he's absolutely fearless and because he
Yeah.
doesn't make emotional connections the same way people do?
I mean, just being a test pilot, you got to be a little selfish.
Yeah.
Even with how much you're risking your own life as a test pilot, you're only going to do it within your comfort zone. So you have to have a very strong container for that comfort zone, you know? So it has to be your own.
Yeah, you have to be willing to push the envelope and push the edge. And if you're somebody who has a wife and kids and all these sorts of relationships, you might not be willing to push as hard.
Yeah. Or even finding someone who is compatible with that. It might not be impossible, but it might be nearly impossible. It might be just very difficult.
Yeah. In the comics, Hal has a long on again, off again relationship with Carol Ferris, who is the daughter of the owner and then later the owner of Ferris Air, which is the company that makes planes. That's where Hal is working when he meets her. He is working as a test pilot at Ferris Air and gets into a relationship with her. And she, obviously, comics are weird, so Carol has become a Star Sapphire, which is basically the violet ring core, which is powered by love instead of willpower.
I remember her from that multi-ring arc, and she had that crazy outfit on, It's really cool.
She is now a standing member of the Justice League in the current comics.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And their relationship is currently on. So it's interesting that they chose not to bring her in here, at least so far. I'll be curious to see if Carol gets a mention or if she shows up or anything like that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, I don't think so, because they're leaning into that lonely aspect of his fearlessness. So
Yeah.
it makes me doubt that they'll do it, but you never know. That could be related to whatever incident caused him to break down.
Right. And you always want to believe what people are saying in these shows, but I mean, do you think he is lonely?
Well, he never says he's lonely. It's what the
Exactly.
sheriff says about him. So it's hard to say. We may find out that he has a healthy relationship with Carol back in Ghost City and, that everything's fine. But it seems unlikely given what we've seen of the character so far.
So far, yeah, he's got something going on
Yeah.
that he's dealing with by himself, for sure.
Yeah. All right. We're coming up near the end of the show here. The Barack Obama back and forth between Hal and Waylon is hilarious. Yes. Waylon's like, oh, wait, Barack Obama. I know this one. He is the President of the United States. I was like, as a rural Nebraskan, that's all you think about Barack Obama. Well, he's the 44th president. He followed George W. Bush, and there's some controversy over his birth certificate. And the way the guy delivers it, you're just like, he is reading from Wikipedia. And Hal's like, oh, holy shit, you are an alien.
Yeah.
That was the other moment in the show where I was like, oh, right, it's 2016. Because in 2016, Barack Obama is currently president. Everyone's got an opinion about him. And obviously, rural white Nebraskan, it's probably not the best opinion.
Yeah, I don't even think he said first African American president.
No, he didn't even.
Which you would say at that time. You would say that.
You would at least mention it. So it was so well done. Like I said, the way he read
it was funny. It was definitely funny.
Like he was just basically reading a Wikipedia entry, and Hal's like, "Oh crap! I mean, I knew you were an alien, but this proves it." And then the actor here who played Waylon did such a good job of that moment where he just breaks and says, okay, we're going to do this. Let's do this. And gives the hypothetical of, if I was an alien, and the sheriff's just like, oh crap. And he just goes into, yeah, I would do this. I'd have a bomb woven into my skeleton that I can blow up with a thought. And
immediately condescending. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this other moment here where Waylon mocks Hal using the Green Lantern oath. And it really gets under Hal's skin. I think there's obviously something about being a Green Lantern that bothers Hal now.
It got under my skin. I'm like, he knows way too much, or at least he's way too familiar.
But the way Hal was telling him to shut up and to stop, it was something specific about the oath that was bothering him. And I feel, again, we'll find out sometime in the next 7 episodes, but it feels like there was an incident. And it involves the uniform, it involves the oath. It's something about being a Green Lantern that broke him. And that's when he stopped backing up his consciousness, and that's when he became the guy that we see in most of this show.
Yes. Do you think there's a reason he didn't bring his battery?
Well, I think arrogance and expediency. He flew off straight from the taco stand to Nebraska. He didn't stop at his house for a change of clothes, for the battery, for anything. He was just like, I'm going. But he's judicious enough with his use of the ring that he knows he can last for more than 48 hours. Now, originally in the comics, it was a flat 24-hour deadline. You had to recharge the ring every 24 hours or it would just go dead and be useless to you.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yes.
That's like having diabetes.
In more modern times, it's more like a fuel tank.
Right.
Where
right.
it will tell you ring is at 83% power, ring at 21% power, ring at 10% power, ring at 2%. Hey, go charge me, please. That sort of thing.
And by the way, let me just add this because this was on my mind before the show started. I didn't even care that they don't have costumes. At first, I was like, I want to see the costume. I want to see the transformation. I didn't even care. It was so good.
Oh, yeah. Well, we do see Hal in his costume during the interview.
Yeah, I know it's going to be there, but like it was just so well done. I just believe them as lanterns.
Yeah. You don't need you brought up the Ryan Reynolds movie before. You don't need a glowing green
neon
CGI costume to make it believable. It's so much better with the practical costumes, especially since we've seen Guy Gardner's costume in Superman.
Yes.
Obviously, it's a slightly different style, but it's a practical costume. It's leather. It's not CGI. Although, in the Ryan Reynolds movie's defense, if you read the comics, especially
careful, I'm picturing a big giant-headed thing right now as you speak.
When you read the comics, they describe the uniform as being a construct itself, and that it is made out of energy.
Right.
And so you can see them using that as inspiration for, let's make it purely CG, let's make it glowing and look like one of his constructs. But in that movie, the CG wasn't there yet, or something. It did not work, and the practical costumes that we have seen in the 1996 interview era and in the trailers look much, much better.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever that incident is, we still have yet to find out. There's one more line here that raised questions for me and really made me wonder where this story is going.
Which one is that?
It's right before he tosses Waylon into the corner and bubbles him up. He asks, "Why are you here?" And Waylon says, "Why else? Vengeance." Who does he want vengeance on? Because Earth is supposedly a backwater planet. We haven't gone out into the stars. We haven't interacted with aliens ourselves as a species.
No.
What would someone in Rushville, Nebraska, or anywhere in America have done to create this need for vengeance from this alien?
Yeah, and I have so little evidence to go off of to figure out what was going on in Nebraska. I just have to put it in a bottle and place it on the shelf.
Oh yeah. It's something we're gonna have to wait for, but it's definitely something that my brain went, what's happening? It's definitely a question they are raising in the story.
I could be wrong, but it didn't seem like he was specifically aiming vengeance at Hal.
No.
So if he's not aiming that vengeance at Hal, who is he aiming it at?
Yeah.
It's so curious.
I agree. It didn't seem like Hal was the target.
So this is, sometimes cliffhangers are kind of the best part of a show. So I'm excited.
Well, speaking of cliffhangers, let's go to 2026.
Yes.
It's winter. John is driving, and he passes by this wreckage. And the first viewing, I couldn't figure out what it was.
Okay.
But on the second viewing, I was watching on my computer with the lights out.
Yeah.
And so I could see it more clearly. That's the gate to the ranch.
Oh.
So something happens at that ranch that completely destroys it, and doesn't get fixed even 10 years later.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, and I think that scene just kind of melded with the show because, and that's to the show's credit, it's keeping its consistency throughout.
oh yeah. So we're in for a ride.
Yeah.
And then
The sheriff was so relaxed in 2026. That's something that stood out to me, and I don't know why.
well, I guess relaxed is definitely one way to put it. I felt she was morose.
Okay.
She seemed, obviously, we're about to get there, but this is a sad occasion. Hal's dead.
Yeah.
And apparently they both know it at this point. She's just showing him the body. He already knew that when he was driving up, because he asks, does anyone else know? And she says,
I love the beard. The beard
yeah,
looks so good.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, wait, you meant John's beard.
Well, yours is longer, so you got that going.
Yeah. So that was what I felt her mood was about, was the fact that this is a sad occasion. And there's not the immediacy like the mass shooting where there's a bunch of witnesses, a bunch of victims. So it makes sense that she could be more relaxed. She could be
It's literally a cold day.
Yeah. And so we see Hal sitting in the exact same spot that he was sitting in when John first showed up in 2016 to Rushville, and snow is built up on him. I couldn't tell if there was like a bullet wound above his eye or if it was like he had been hit by something, but there was definitely some sort of mark, some sort of wound.
I had
above
the
his
impression,
eye.
yeah, it was hard to say whether it was just a speck of blood or if something went through his skull with so much precision.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more than a speck, because it's dripping down his face. And then the first thing John does is he brushes away the snow on Hal's hand. Hal's not wearing the ring.
No.
John's not wearing the ring.
Not this time.
So, where's the ring? Now, what I did notice, I went back to rewatch Superman, not all the way through, but the scenes with Guy Gardner, and Guy's ring does look like the same ring. It's a
big ring, isn't it?
It's a pretty chunky ring.
Yeah.
So it could be that Guy has the ring, but wouldn't John know that already? Why would he be looking for it on Hal's hand if Guy has had the ring for the past X number of years?
Right.
My thought is that there are 2 rings for Sector 2814 now, and that Hal had one, but now it's gone. Now, obviously, they've promoted this show with Kyle Chandler as one of the stars. So we're not just going to stay in 2026 and this become a where's the ring story, but it seems like we're going to cut back and forth between 2016 and 2026 much more in future episodes to get the conclusion of that mystery, as well as all the mysteries of what happened in Rushville, what happened before that to break Hal, all of that story. So I really enjoyed this first episode, and I'm absolutely looking forward to watching where this story goes in the next few weeks.
I completely agree. It was excellent TV. It was prestige.
It's
Premier
not just
TV.
It's HBO.
Yeah,
That used to be that slogan.
It did not feel like a superhero production. It felt like there were some real stakes, real people.
It didn't feel like a CW show. It didn't feel like The Flash or Arrow,
Penguin, or anything like that.
It definitely felt more elevated than that. I really enjoyed it. I love how different every DCU project has been so far. where we've had Superman with this absolutely PG, family-friendly Boy Scout lead character.
Larger than
Then
life.
we have Peacemaker, this foul-mouthed anti-hero, absolutely vulgar, TV MA. Then we have
anything can do, right?
Then we have Creature Commandos, which is an animated show and feels akin to Peacemaker, but still very much has its own tone. And Lanterns feels like its own tone, but they all still feel connected to one another.
I want to see more of this show, but I want to see more shows like Lanterns. And I was a little disappointed when Netflix didn't get Warner Brothers, because I was saying to myself, well, Netflix is gonna put the shows out at least. Like, I'm actually gonna get my money's worth out of Netflix.
Yeah.
And
maybe for
when
a
CBS
season.
bottom, I'm like, I don't know. But man, this has alleviated all my doubts. I'm pretty confident. I'm no longer on the fence.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me for the last 2-ish hours. And
Absolutely, yeah, it was real fun.
Yeah, really enjoyed it, and we will be back next week to talk episode 2 of Lanterns.
See you next time.
Thanks again to Woody Gartner for joining me. We'll be back for the next 7 weeks to complete this deep dive. If you have any thoughts on the show you'd like to share, you can email those, or questions you think would make good topics for future episodes, via email to welcome2geektown@gmail.com. Or you can go to the website, welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com, and click the Submit a Question link if you'd prefer to remain anonymous. You can also reach me at Blue Sky, where my username is the same as my website, at welcome to, the number 2, geektown.com. You can help the show grow by subscribing and giving a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show, so we can all tell them, welcome to Geektown, population, us. Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstead. Theme music is by Aaron Levitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All other sound clips are the copyrighted material of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.